This is the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center Something to Talk About. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we talk about something. And today we're going to be talking about Facebook hacks with Paul Bryant. I want to also thank Fieldstone Memory Care. They are a sponsor of these programs that we record and make available after the fact, as well as in person. And Fieldstone Memory Care is offering innovative and compassionate care. They have a memory care facility on Rolling Bay, and they are now accepting residents. To schedule a tour of Fieldstone's beautifully appointed apartments, you can call 360-271-2530. 360-271-2530. And welcome, Paul. You know, we were talking a little bit about the fact that Facebook is kind of a wild world out there. and sometimes you get invites that you think are from somebody you've already become friends with, and they might be.
Yes. The talk these days, of course, is all about Facebook's nefarious dealings in the way they share your information. And I'm not going to go into that because a lot of people still find it very useful. I find it extremely useful to share my photographs, which I put up some every day.
And they're wonderful, wonderful photographs. If you haven't looked for Paul's photos, do. Thank you for sharing them.
And, you know, I see really heartwarming things like somebody that says, oh my God, I've got to get to the doctor and I can't catch the ferry. And somebody says, oh, I'll drop by and pick you up and take you down. You know, things like that happen all the time. And one of the big objections a lot of people have to Facebook is really obnoxious comments from certain people. And I always recommend if you don't like the way people are talking on a group, instead of getting into the argument, just block the individuals that are making the comments so you won't see their stuff anymore, or unfollow them at the very least. Okay, so we're going to be talking specifically today about these fake Facebook friend requests, which I got caught up in this just last week when people were writing me saying, oh, I just got a message supposedly from you wanting to friend me and so on. And so it affects everybody sooner or later, but especially people with a lot of friends. So when you get a Facebook friend request in your messaging, and you think, oh, I think I'm already this person's friend, you might be tempted to say, well, I don't want to lose them. I better friend them again. Or you might say, I know I already am a friend of this person. I'm just going to ignore this and forget it. And that's, I think, what most people do, which is fine for you. This is more or less solves the problem for you. It doesn't solve the problem that underlies it, though, that somebody with criminal intent is doing this to a large number of people. You're just one of them. And I think it's a good public service to try and dig down a little deeper. And that's what we're going to go on into. The other thing you can do when you get one of those messages is just click on, I don't want to hear from this person's name. Now, when I give these instructions, that's the way it is today, or was yesterday when I was writing them. Facebook is constantly changing things. So if you try something and it doesn't quite work, you may have to poke around a little bit, but I'm going to give you some tips on that too. And the notes are going to be available for your downloading, so you can look them up. So you don't have to absorb everything right now.
Yes, I will put the notes in the chat in a couple minutes here. I'm not going to put them in right now because I don't want to distract you from listening or asking questions. And they'll also be available on our website long term.
Okay, so if you're unsure of whether you know the person who's contacting you or not, and click on your friends list and you can look at it. And recently Amazon had added a search, which is really nice. So you can just type in the name and I'll search through and say, bingo, this person is already your friend. And that means that the person who just contacted you is somebody using that name who's really faking, pretending to be somebody else, pretending to be a person that you might want to friend. But I'd like to urge you to, first of all, tell the person who is supposedly sending you the message, the real person whose name you have in your friends list. Tell them somebody's doing this. Alert them, because they typically won't know until one of their friends gets back to them and says, do you know that somebody's sending out requests in your name? Or why did you say this? Because I'm already your friend.
Highly unlikely that they will be asked to be the friend of themselves.
Right, exactly. So it's really helpful to them. And there's several things you can do. One of them is to tell them, if you should put up a message on your own Facebook page saying, somebody's doing this, ignore it, it isn't me. And then the other thing you can do is to dig down a little further and report the scammer to Facebook. And Facebook has gotten very good about shutting down this kind of thing as soon as they get notified of it. But notifying them can be a little tricky. Now, what's happening is, probably if you get one of these requests, such requests are probably going out to all of the friends of of you, and that for your friends are the real target here. So that somebody is trying to gather a lot of friends by pretending to be a friend, somebody you'd want a friend. Why are they doing this? Well, I'll go into that later, but the first thing I'd like you to do, and I don't know whether this is a big deal for other people, but having been an English professor for years, it bothers when people say, my account's been hacked, or your account's been hacked. Now, hacking is something very different from this kind of faking we're talking about today. A hacker would take over your account, steal your password, figure it out somehow, and then change your password to one that only they can get into, and voila, you've lost your Facebook account and somebody else pretending to be you has taken it over. That is rare, extremely rare. I've never encountered an example of it, but evidently it does occasionally happen. That's hacking. You need to be somebody with certain skills. But what most people are doing is just going into your Facebook account, which is open to the public unless you've protected it, and looking at your picture, quickly copying your picture, which is trivially easy, writing down your name, copying that too, and then going and looking at your friend list. Now, Facebook wants you to make as many friends as possible. So they, by default, make your friends list open to the public. And so you're talking to Jane Doe, and you can just say, well, if Jane Doe is an interesting person, it says here she's got 671 friends, click on it, and there's all the friends and their addresses. And so you can just copy them, and that's all you got to do. No hacking involved. It's just easy as looking over the shoulder of the kid in front of you on the test. So try to avoid using the word hacker. It's not crucial, but it would please a lot of us, and it's less scary. When people think their account's been hacked, they really think somebody's been messing around with the software inside their account. That's not
probably a better word would be spoofed. They're spoofing you. They're pretending to be somebody they're not, like those terrible phone calls we get that say that they're from 842 when they're really from overseas.
Yeah. So what the scammer is doing is taking your picture, your name, and your friends list, and creating a new account that will have your picture and your name. Sometimes they're really lazy and they don't even bother to put the picture up. So if you get a friend request from somebody and it always shows the picture of the person who's trying to contact them, if it's just a blank outline and a gray generic thing and there's no real photograph there, that's almost certainly a faker, somebody who means no good. I suppose it could be somebody extremely shy who didn't ever put their picture up, but there should be some kind of picture. It might be a dog, might be a flower or something else, but there should be a picture there. But seeing the picture of somebody you know kind of reassures you and makes you think, oh, well, I know this person, but that isn't necessarily the case. Really easy to copy. Well, then to create the new account so that when you friend them, you're connected to them, they have to change the URL. Now, Facebook goes to some lengths not to show you what your actual Facebook name is. In my case, I am Paul.Bryans.3. Now, as far as I know, I'm the only really legitimate Paul Bryans in the world. So why am I number 3? Well, there's a guy in Africa who evidently meant no harm, who has a perfectly good African name, who called himself Paul Bryans for being on the web. He may have just been interested in something I was doing. I don't know. But he's harmless. He's a medical student, and I've corresponded with him, and he's never tried to do anything bad. So I think he's the default. He's Paul Bryans number 1. He has far fewer friends than I do, and they're almost all African. There was a guy in the Philippines for a while who created an account as Paul Bryans.2. And so he took up the next one. He disappeared quickly before I could do anything about him. So I wound up as Paul Bryans 3. So if you can check the scammers page, not by accepting his account, but just searching for him using the search blank in Facebook to look for him, and you see that it doesn't say Paul.Bryans.3, it says Paul-Bryans.3 or Paul Bryans all smushed together .3. They do all kinds of things that are close but not exactly the same. But you don't have to do a lot of detective work to determine that, because most of these scammers are extremely lazy. Typically, what they do is set up the fake account, just has your picture and name on it and nothing else. Or they might have 1 or 2 photographs. And that's, if there's only 1 or 2, why would a person who has hardly put anything up on their Facebook page yet be wanting to get friends already? You'd think they would have said, hello world, here I am, I just wanted to join Facebook. A few might copy your about entry and say, well, I went to high school in Podunk and I'm married to Mary and so on. But that's really unusual. Most of the time they don't bother. Now, why is it that most of these fake accounts are so crude? They're so simplistic. There's practically nothing there usually. And you would look at them, and once you looked at their account, you say, this is kind of empty. There's only 1 or 2 pictures here. Why is this contacting me? And the answer, I think, is partly that they're looking for gullible people, not suspicious people, because they want to pull something on you. And so if they can get away with you accepting as friends when they've got a totally fake looking account, you're a good client and good contact. So that's searching for the name of the person in the Facebook search. There's a search up in the upper left of your homepage, is something that people don't usually do, but it's really useful. Now, there are some ways to block such accounts and make sure that they are taken down. I already talked about warning your real friend, who can then warn their friends about it. But you can also report it yourself to Facebook. Now, there's various ways to do it, and Facebook keeps changing how this is done. But now, when you get a request, there is a possibility of blocking them right away. And I don't think 2 weeks ago it was like that, but it is now. So you get this suspicious message coming in. There's a place you can click to say block. And that not only blocks them, it pops up another menu saying, why are you blocking them? And one of the choices will be, is there, do you think this is somebody pretending to be somebody else? All right, something like that. And if you do, then Facebook can do various things. Sometimes what they'll do is say, we're going to be in contact with this person and see whether they're really genuine, and then we'll get back to you. Or they could just block them. This happened just another day, yesterday, where somebody contacted me. I said they were suspicious. I reported it to Facebook. They said they would be looking into it, but less than 1 minute later, the page that had been created with the other person's name on it was gone. Which means they've got some automated process that say, okay, let's check and see, is that the same photograph as the real photograph? Is there nothing in it? Okay, it's probably fraudulent. Take it down. And I imagine that's all happening automatically, which is a real step forward, because it used to take them some time to do it. Almost always I've had it. Now you can also write the person whose identity is being stolen and say, somebody's doing this to you, and here's how to report it. And I usually do that anyway, because I think it's good information to spread for people to have. Even if you've already shut this page down, the next time that they encounter this problem, they need to know how to do it too. And I'll go into that a little bit more. If you're searching for the person's name, I searched for my own name the other day for Paul Bryans, and I found 3 blank fake pages with my name on them with little variations. And when you hit something like that, you can then put your cursor over the name, but do not click on the person's name. Instead, if there's often a blank where the person are, these are a blank picture, that is. And if you put the cursor just hovering over that without clicking, a menu will pop up. And in that menu, you'll see 3 dots to the right. Now, this is one of my pet peeves. A few years ago, people started making these 3 dots, which looks like an ellipsis in a sentence, such as, you know, we've left something out here, but there's something else you need to know, maybe. Actually, the function is sort of the opposite of what an English ellipsis is. And you can see they're stacked up in what reads count. Sometimes they're sideways, and they're in the upper right-hand corner, those 3 dots. Oh yeah, and you've got them horizontally here. So if you click block at that, then Facebook will give you another menu, and the first item on it is pretending to be someone. And so it's so common that they've made that. It's not doing it on this one. Yeah, I have to do it over here, right? That's another read price. You may or may not get this, then you're getting different results. But one of the things that pops up is pretending to be someone. And if you click on that, then the case is almost certain to be put down. And the victim will be alerted by Facebook, but I think it's good to alert the victim too. And then you also can get an entry in the Help Center, which is not as easy to find as it ought to be. But the Help Center has as a choice, how do I report a Facebook account or a page that's pretending to be me or someone else? Now, this is really, really important. And Facebook doesn't make it easy to find this page. And in my notes, I put down the URL, but you don't have to type in this URL. You'll see a button called Copy Link, which you can paste into your message from my notes. Or if you've forgotten how to do this, you can use Google Google is not perfect, but Google indexes Facebook better than Facebook does. So if you go into Google and ask a question, you can use all kinds of different questions. It doesn't have to be exactly worded. How to report a fake friend request on Facebook, or you could say FB. And you don't have to remember this exact warning. You could, yeah, look at all these showing up. All right. And then click on that link. And this is the page I'm talking about. And you can close that was this helpful thing if you want. And that gives you the chance immediately to report the person. And that's really powerful. Facebook's top priority, as I said at the beginning, is to get you to make as many friends as possible. And although they provide powerful tools for avoiding problems, they don't make them as prominent as they ought to. And so instead of, when you first create your account, helping you set it up in such a way that you'll screen these people out, they let you worry about it and then dig in and find that page. And that page is constantly updated. So you'll get new information on what to do if it's changed. Now, some Google hits when you do this may contain outdated information. One of the problems with using Google to find solutions to technical problems is that often the most popular answers turn out to most popular ones go to the top of the list, usually when Google. Well, the most popular ones could be already outdated. If the question you are asking the answer has changed a week ago, it's not going to help you to read what somebody said 5 years ago. And this works for all kinds of things you might be asking about. So there is a tool in Google which allows you to set a limit to the dates of what the answers will come from. So you can say, give me posts that were put up during the last year, so you don't get something out of date, or the last week, or 24 hours, or whatever. So that helps. But what you want is a link that goes back to Facebook, not to somebody else who's talking about Facebook, because the current information is going to be on the Facebook page. Now, some people are probably wondering, why are scammers sending out friend requests from fake accounts anyway? What do they get out of it? Are they just lonely? No. One is that the scammer is trying to accumulate a very large number of friends, not because they really want to be friends with them, but because they want to make money. And they can make money by accumulating, several hundred friends or even thousands. And I've seen cases of this. And then they can turn around and sell the right to advertise on their account, which is named after you, but they can even rename it. And the people who buy Facebook ads don't usually check things out. They just have a list that says, or an order that says, when a Facebook account reaches X amount, please post my ad on it. And the person who's owning the fake account gets paid for those ads being posted. So that's actually fairly common. But the scammer might be trying to get money from you. Now, this is a little more complicated. And this is the kind of thing that also turns up in email, where somebody says, well, you've just won the lottery and there's a processing fee you'll have to send to this address, blah, blah, blah. And, everybody gets these kinds of things. And here's one I encountered. So I was just doing my Facebook one day, and I got a Facebook message from someone I know well but don't see very often. And she said, I'm traveling and forgot to buy my granddaughter a birthday present. And I'm on an airplane, I'm trapped, I can't do this myself. So would you please go to such and such a store and buy a gift card and put $25 on it or $50, and then you return, copy the numbers off the back of it, and then send it to me, and then I can cash it and I'll pay you back later when I get home. And it would be really nice of you. Okay, there's several things that are suspicious about that. First of all, if this person says they're in an airplane, they can't contact you, how are they contacting you? They're sending out an email from the airplane. That doesn't happen very often. That was incredibly stupid. But anytime anybody asks you to buy a card and put money on it, forget about it. It's always, always, always a fraud. You never want to do that. And so I phoned up this woman, and the telephone is your friend. We get used to communicating electronically. Oh, it's great to talk to people sometimes. You just talk to the person, and she said, hello, I know. I already had, before I could say anything, somebody already called me about this. So she was not traveling. She didn't need any gift cards. And if you want more details on this kind of scam, there's a whole page by the Federal Trade Commission's consumer information site called Gift Card to Scams. And again, you could just Google that phrase, gift card scams. It's really wonderful information. And I put the link in my notes if you download them, but they're easy to find. Another thing that happens sometimes is that the scammer may post one or more very attractive portraits of supposedly of themselves, hoping to build a romantic relationship. And we read about really heartbreaking accounts of this sometime, trying to gradually convince you to send them some money. And so, oh, I want to come and visit you. I know you've been having trouble, but you're just so wonderful, and they build a relationship and eventually say, well, I really want to come and visit in person, but it looks like I had some financial difficulty. If you just lend me a little money to solve this. And it's amazing how people fall for this sometimes. Often their Facebook pages contain nothing but a few alluring pictures, and that's especially the case with women trying to lure men. I think men usually run these scams, put some very sexy pictures up and say, oh yeah, you want to get closer? And such scams often target seniors, and it's just they're expecting that they may not be as sophisticated about scams. And then there is the kind of classic message purporting to come from your grandchild. And this grandchild has gotten into trouble in some foreign country, and they've got in the custody of the police, and they can't get out, and they can't get free unless you send them some money, again, on a card or something. Well, the first question to ask yourself is, do you have any grandchildren? I don't, so that's obviously a fraud to me.
That makes it easy for you.
Secondly, how about picking up the phone? Call the grandchild saying, what are you doing? If you've got their phone number, if you can't reach them, reach their parents. Is your kid really traveling someplace? I got this message. That's the first thing you should do. Don't answer the message. Don't do anything with it. It's going to be a fake. And there are a lot of other scams, and that same FTC site has a wonderful page called Avoiding and Reporting Scams. And it goes into much more detail about what they're like and how to deal with them. If you read the AARP magazine, by the way, that's also a great source for updating you on how to deal with scams. Now, if you want to prevent scammers from contacting you in the first place, if you go to your Facebook homepage and click on the downward pointing arrow, it's just a triangle pointing downward, and choose Settings and Privacy. Then you have to choose Settings, then Privacy, and you'll land on a page giving you options to protect your information. And there are a lot of them, and you'll want to go through them all and see which ones you want. The main ones to check are how people find and contact you, and how you get message requests. Bingo, just what we wanted. Most people will want to make their pages available only to people they've confirmed already as friends, or perhaps members of Facebook groups they've joined. So you can do that here. So you can say, I'm only going to see people that I've reached out to, or who people who've emailed me and said, you're interested in becoming Facebook friends, or maybe by telephone or something. And so people just generally who you don't know can't see your page anyway, will not even become aware of your existence. And that's probably the safest. But I keep my page open because I've been friended by many people across the country and across the world, because they like my photographs. And I post daily, and so there's a lot of people who see my stuff. Or people who know me from elsewhere search for me on Facebook. So I keep a text on my computer desktop, and when I receive a friend request from somebody I don't know, instead of clicking on the name or simply blocking them, I paste in my reply, this text. Because I receive a great many friend requests from fake accounts, when someone I don't know asks to friend me on Facebook, I like to know first what interests them in my page. It is devoted primarily to my photography. My popular Common Errors in English Usage website is quite separate from my Facebook account and can be used without any sort of permission at https://brians.wsu.edu/common-errors/. So, what is your interest? Please answer this question within 2 days if you want me to friend you. I have never had one of these scammers go to the trouble of finding out what my Common Errors in English Usage is about and replying. If somebody does say, oh, I'm interested in the Common Errors site, they're almost always genuine. They are always genuine. These guys don't go to a lot of trouble, typically. And so I wait 2 days, and if I don't hear back from them, I report them and they get shut down. But they often will reply and say, oh, and I got one yesterday. I really like your personality. You seem like really interesting person. Hi, or how are you doing this morning? Or anything generic that you wouldn't have to know anything about the person to say. Those are fakers. People who really want to know you to talk about something specific will mention that specific thing. They won't just say hi. And so yesterday I got this one where the guy was very flattering and talked about what a great person I was and how he enjoyed my stuff. And I wrote back and said, this doesn't sound real to me. Tell me why you're really interested in this, or I'll have to block you. And he wrote back a very insulting message saying, oh, you're an egomaniac. You're just a terrible person. I hate you, and I'm going to block you. Usually, however, they just silently disappear. So this can be very handy, but maybe 1 time out of 10, I get somebody like a gay guy in a refugee camp in Central Africa who's living in a tent with other gay guys who are all being persecuted. He has a cell phone, and he just, this is his only window into the outside world. And he's not trying to pry money loose. He's just wants to talk with people. Or a photographer who lives in Pakistan and really likes the kind of photographs he's seen, because I post photographs on iPhone photography, which is very international, has thousands of members all over the world. And somebody in Florida who checks my work daily and often comments on it. And I see her post about what's going on in Florida. But she's genuinely interested in what I do. And I find all that very entertaining. Most people won't want to bother with that. But that's why I leave my account open, so people can just stumble on it and see if it's something they want to engage with.
Now, do you make your friends list open as well?
I didn't realize you could hide it until I read that page that I was just recommending, and I hit it.
So if you want to go down this rabbit hole, there's a lot of control that you can have over how visible you are on Facebook. And But you don't have to. I mean, if you're just talking with your friends or your grandkids and you don't want to be bothered by this, go to the privacy tab and make it as narrow as you can live with, and you'll be fine. But then you may not see Sheila Kerwin's multiple memes being posted.
It strikes me that Facebook makes all these tools available so they can defend themselves from criticism of not having made them available, but then they don't make them prominent. You have to know 3 dots means good stuff you ought to check out here. Not everybody knows that. And you have to go through 2 or 3 steps. What I would like to see is when you first set up a Facebook account, it would present you with these choices and say, what kind of Facebook account you want? You want to keep this just with your friends? Do you want other people to know who your friends are? You know, click here and so on. That would be the honest way to do it.
Now you're getting to the part of the conversation you said you weren't going to get to, which is the way that Facebook has been doing business. Rita has a question or comment.
So I'm just have very little on Facebook, just so I can see my grandkids and my sisters and my nieces, mostly my family. But so I'm thinking to myself, the high school kids that come in on Monday to help with the tech stuff could help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably could. If you signed up for one of our Silver Tech classes or one-on-one sessions with the kids from Bainbridge Youth Services, I'm pretty sure they could help you figure out the settings you might like on Facebook.
Okay. And if they didn't know all about it, you could download the notes for this talk and print it out and hand it to them.
Oh, okay. That'd be great. I want to just keep it as simple as possible. Right. I'm smarter than I think I am, but I just don't have time for 80 million things. So
fair enough.
That's good. But thank you very much.
And I'd appreciate those people who find what this presentation is useful to direct other people to it. It will be available streaming recorded. So if you put on your own Facebook account, here's something I found useful, and then link to the senior center's streaming, then that would be really nice. I'd like the information to get around more than it does.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing all this with us. And I found it very informative, and your experiences are deeper into the world of Facebook than most of us want to or will ever go. So giving us a report from the front lines is helpful.
Okay, thanks.